A steady procession of African leaders has been arriving in Washington, D.C. Monday for President Biden's U.S.-Africa summit. It begins Tuesday and is expected to run until Friday departures. The president will present on Wednesday and is expected to announce support for the inclusion of the African Union in the G20. On Thursday, there will be a rollout of a U.S. plan for Africa at an event entitled Leaders Session, Partnering on Agenda 2063. That session will include 3 discussions. Session 1, an Africa of good governance, democracy, respect for human rights, justice, and the rule of law. Session 2, a peaceful and secure Africa. And Session 3, a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Simon Ateba is a journalist from Cameroon who is based in Nigeria. He's the White House correspondent with TodayNewsAfrica.com and has had a number of press conference run-ins with White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. He will be covering the summit this week, and we spoke with him via Zoom from Washington, D.C. on Monday. Simon Ateba, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Are you part of the White House Press Corps? Because I've seen you there a few times now. Is that?
Yes. I'm a member of the White House Correspondents Association, and I work for Today News Africa. And Today News Africa focuses on U.S.-Africa relations, has China and Russia expanding influence across Africa, and sometimes spreading disinformation and misinformation against the U.S. And we are trying to correct that.
I'm going to be covering the summit that is being hosted by President Biden beginning on Tuesday this week, the 13th. And there's some issues that you raise at TodayNewsAfrica.com, the banner piece about this, including an interesting fact that Biden has not scheduled a one-on-one meeting with any of the 50 African leaders that are coming to Washington. And he didn't invite a number of, less favored nations.
Yeah, so President Biden will host, invited 49 African head of state plus the head of the African Union Commission. So that makes it 50 African leaders for the U.S.-Africa Summit that start on Tuesday and will end on Thursday. They're having a big dinner tomorrow, Wednesday, at the White House in the East Room. But the president has not scheduled any one-on-one with any of the African leaders who will be here. And so he will just be in a big conference room with them and, give a speech, but there's no one-on-one to really discuss country-by-country issues, which is a big problem because President Biden just came back from Asia where I was covering those summit and, he will meet with the Japanese prime ministers and meet with, he had several one-on-one with a number of leaders there. So, inviting African leaders to the summit and making them spend so much money. Some of them stay in a hotel where they spend $22,000 a night. At the Four Seasons Hotel, the presidential suite there costs $22,000 a night. And so you invite them and they come with 50 or 100 people for the summit, Secret Service, agent, protocol, cabinet members. All of them have to, live in DC in hotels. But then in the end, you don't even have 5 minutes to sit down with them.
We just went through this with Latin America. Okay. First of all, what's the reason that Biden called this summit? If he's not going to have substantive conversations with the heads of state, then it's some sort of horse and pony show. And who's the audience for this? And this is happening at the same time that we've had Pompeo and before with Trump, and now again recently Blinken trying to strong-arm African countries with respect to doing business with Russia and China. So what is the thinking here that he's going to charm them or something? What's the substance?
Okay, so let me give you the unofficial and the official aim of the summit.
Got it.
The unofficial aim of the summit is to fight China and Russia especially with the war in Ukraine, and, try to seek favor with African nations who demonstrated during the UN General Assembly, the UN vote last year, that this year that the US was losing influence in Africa.
Yep.
And, a number of them, didn't vote along with the US to sanction Russia, during the war. So unofficially, what the US is trying to do, they don't say it officially. Unofficially, they are trying to, seek a rapprochement, a favor with those African nations to fight China and Russia. Right. China is expanding, building bridges, and, spreading the narrative. And Russia is at war with Ukraine. So that's what they are trying to do. Officially, what they are trying to do is to say that we are trying to strengthen ties. We are trying to, the Secretary Blinken just went to South Africa in August, and he unveiled what they called the new U.S. Africa policy, the new U.S. policy in Africa or on Africa. And he has these 4 layers where a number of things that we do, talking about democracy and, all kinds of stuff. And talking about democracy, the people that invited here include Obiangema Mbazogo, who is the longest president on earth. He's been in power for 43 years, right, and has just won re-election with 94.7 of 90, more than 94% of the vote, won all the seats at the National Assembly, won all the seats in the municipal, seat, and won every single seat. The opposition didn't get any seat in anything, lower chamber, upper chamber. Is among the people that President Biden also invited for the democracy. He will also attend the democracy part. So.
Right. This is kind of like inviting Juan Guaido to the democracy summit of Latin America.
Yeah. There's also Biya, who has been in power in Cameroon for more than 40 years. Yeah. He's also among the people who are here in DC.
And who's missing? Like who's playing the role of Venezuela and Nicaragua?
Okay, so the Ethiopian prime minister, we were at the airport yesterday. The Ethiopian prime minister arrived yesterday. As you know, there's been a big war in Ethiopia between the TPLF and the Ethiopian federal government. Right. So he showed up yesterday. The invitation wasn't sent to him. The White House sent the invitation to the president of Ethiopia. He's not the president. So the president of Ethiopia passed the invitation to him because they said they sent the invitation to the head of state on behalf of the country, and the country decide who represent them. Yeah. And so he showed up yesterday. The White House actually did not invite 7 countries. They didn't invite 4 of those countries because they are suspended by the African Union. The countries include 1, Sudan; 2, Guinea; 3, Burkina Faso; and the last country is Mali. And all those countries, you have coups and counter coups and instability, and the White House didn't invite those 1. In addition to those 4 who have been suspended by the African Union, the White House also did not invite Eritrea, which is the what you just said now. They are, they have diplomatic relations with the U.S. Yes. Since the 90s, since they got independence from Ethiopia.
Yes.
But they are having strained relationship with the U.S. And, the president doesn't even talk to President Biden. Because of the war in Ukraine, the relationships are bad with those ones. So Eritrea was not invited. In addition to that, Somaliland, the president of Somaliland, wasn't invited. They have an office in DC, but they don't have full diplomatic relation with the U.S. And finally, a small territory called Western Sahara in the Maghreb region in North Africa wasn't invited because it's a disputed territory with Morocco. And there they were extremely upset that Morocco beat Spain during the World Cup because they said that Morocco has been oppressing them for years. And Spain was their first colonizers, and then Morocco replaced Spain and Mauritania. And so President Biden didn't invite them also because there's no diplomatic relation with them. So in all, 7 countries and territories were not invited to the summit.
I'm just curious. It seems that this agenda is worked out with the African Union. presumably the relationship between the U.S. and the African Union has changed from what it was before the war on Libya and the killing of Gaddafi, and all of the things that happened since, and also the installation of AFRICOM. Is there a partnership like developing between the African Union and the U.S.? And what is the stance of the African Union now vis-a-vis China?
Okay, so that's the problem. So the president of Senegal just granted an interview. He's the chairperson of the African Union. You know, they have these chairperson, the African Union chair represented by all the countries who are member, the 55 countries, and then they have the African Union Commission, which is headed by Moussa Faki Mahamat, who is like running the day-to-day operation. But the big decision, they bring all the president from all those countries. So the president of Senegal just granted an interview to the New York Times, and he said that on the agenda for this summit, you know, I told you what the U.S. is trying to achieve.
Yes.
What the Africans are trying to achieve is to tell the U.S. not to dictate to them who they should do business with, who they should talk to.
I see.
Who they should talk to, and to be free and to be able to do their business. So the relationship became a bit stronger since the war on Ukraine. One diplomat told me there was a big wake-up call when they lost their vote. As far as Africa is concerned, they didn't have the countries they had expected to vote for, you know, to sanction Russia and to condemn the war on Ukraine. And it was a big wake-up call. So Secretary Blinken has been trying to have a rapprochement, a good relationship with, you know, the African Union. But you still have many issues.
Thank you very much. So you're going to be attending the next couple of days, and hopefully we'll be able to speak with you afterwards and get an update.
Yes, we are credentialed to cover the summit, and I will attend, try to speak with any person that I can, all the presidents. But they are spending a lot of money. Africans are hungry. They are spending $22,000 in hotels a night. So it's good for business in DC.
I guess it is, yes. Simon Ateba, thank you very much. And you can catch his writing at todaynewsafrica.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
For KPFK, I'm Don DeBar.